Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. For those keeping count, this is episode 386. And my next guest, he's never been on the podcast before, but I've known him for a long, long time, back when I had a cleaning business. And so, he's done some incredible things, but I think you're going to pay attention because it's not just about cleaning or marketing. It's about love and peace. And you might be thinking, Rob, what are you talking about? But it's all about unity. So I want to welcome Tim Paulson to the show, and thanks for being here.
Rob, it's a privilege. Thank you. I can't believe, first of all, two things. You've done 386 episodes. That is phenomenal. Oh my gosh. And the other thing I can't believe, I've never been invited before now.
It's I've had some people on repeatedly, and they have but I'm like, I need some new people. I've known a lot of people. Why aren't they on the show?
Well, you and I
And
go way back. It's
you know,
fun to connect
when
with
I
you.
started this in 2018, I had a podcast before that, and I got some pretty brilliant people on that one. Joe Sugarman and
I love
some of
Joe.
these people aren't with us anymore.
Yeah, I
And
love.
I'm glad I recorded that time.
Oh
And
my
and
God.
and so, this podcast, if I go back to the very beginning, I have lost a few guests. They've died. But I'm glad I got to spend time with them. And so going forward, I'm trying to interview people that have touched my life somehow, some way, to make it better, to make it, more exciting, but also that gives me the ability to take their information and give it back to my family, to make my life better too.
Yep.
It's and that's why I brought you on, because you've transformed your life to be more God-centered.
Yep.
And there's not a lot of businesses who do that or are upfront about it. But you've created this movement, not only with your art, but with your skills and your past marketing knowledge, to get people to be inspired. And I think that's really cool. I really do.
Thank you. It's interesting, Rob, to be in the business environment and to speak of things of a spiritual nature, faith-based nature.
Hmm.
And what I find, and I think you have found as well, is that once that door opens in a conversation, so we can be talking about marketing and all the cool things we've done, to help build companies and transform companies, and then you open the door to something faith-based, and people just run through that door. They want to talk about that. It's like, if there's a circle of life, you've seen these, it's
Hmm.
like a circle. It's like rate yourself 1 to 5 in these different areas, and how balanced is your circle. And so a lot of times we're really well balanced in business and financial and maybe health and relationships. But I like to add the faith to it as well. I've been in many groups where we do an exercise where we fill out that circle, but the
Hmm.
faith part is excluded.
Yeah.
I add it in there. And people love that. They love talking about that. It's like, man, that's if I want to be balanced, if I want to have an even greater life and enjoy greater happiness and greater love and greater unity, I need to bring that in to focus even more. And what I find a lot of times that people in their personal life, they're really focusing on that, but in the business world, they're shy about it.
Hmm.
And I'm not shy.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people would call what we think a little woo-woo. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think it that way, because
yeah,
what I believe in gives me that moral compass to run my business better.
yeah.
And and I, and,
Absolutely.
and I think people
Absolutely.
forget about that. They're like, oh, well, you're just in it for the money. If I was in it for the money, yeah, I wouldn't be dealing with clients like this.
Yep.
and it's not to be, you know, to, I don't know. Sometimes you look at people and say, you know, you're just dumb. And I don't want to say that to them. It just, you don't understand,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how I live my life needs to have purpose. And
Yes.
and money is not always that purpose. Last year I wrote a book called Legacy, and
Mhm.
and and I incorporated all the stories from my carpet cleaning days to my marketing days, and I showcased people why money is not always the reason we do things. You know,
Mm.
for me, legacy is always passing on my knowledge, my my way of doing things, my way of seeing the world.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, every time I hear of legacy, it's, investments and this and that. That's all great. But here's the problem. By the second or third generation, that money's gone.
Yeah.
Knowledge lives forever.
Hmm. Yep.
So it's, and so you have to look at your life in a more spiritual way. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that follow this religion or follow that religion.
Huh?
Follow your conscience. Make sure
You,
that
you know,
what you're doing is for the betterment of society. You know,
so I formed a group last year called Totality Group. I like the image of totality. The moon in front of the sun, and there's totality, and we're talking about unity and these types of things. But to me, that represents becoming like all you're capable of becoming. It's
mhm.
actually one of my paintings of totality is on my second book, Totality X,
Mm,
The Art of Becoming All God Created You to Be. So actually, let me just because it's illustrative. So Totality X,
nice.
Art of Becoming All God Created to Be. So again, this is one of my paintings. But the X is not like our friend Joe Polish had Genius X,
Hmm.
and there's other programs, something X, because X is a strong letter. It's kind of cool. Well, this is the Greek letter chi or ki, however you pronounce that Greek letter. And as in Xmas is an abbreviation for Christmas,
Hmm.
this is if for centuries, the letter key is an abbreviation for Christ.
Hmm.
So it's totality becoming all God created you to be through Christ.
Hmm.
So anyway, I started a group called Totality, the Totality Group, kind of to become all that we're capable of becoming. Um, but it is merging biblical principles, faith with business,
Hmm.
best practices, right? And I struggled with this, Rob. I went to Liberty University and got a Master of Divinity degree. Then I went to Emory University School of Theology and got a Doctor of Ministry degree. And I'm thinking, how do I bring all that education, biblical studies for the most part, into the business world?
Hmm.
And that's what I've done in Totality X, excuse me, the Totality Group, and
Hmm.
in Totality X as well. But but what it's about is thriving more abundantly in business, but in all aspects of life, personally. Boy, if you're not getting along with your spouse, you're not thriving.
Hmm.
You're not living your best life. If you don't have a great relationship with your kids and grandkids, you can have all the money in the world, but you're not thriving.
Right.
You can have all the money in the world, but have poor health. Well, if that's the case, you're not thriving.
Hmm.
If you're not in relationship with God, you're not thriving.
Hmm.
And so Totality Group actually brings that all together so that we're thriving more abundantly in all these areas. And at Liberty University. Now, people ask me, why did you get them? So I just got these recently. This wasn't that many years ago. I mean, I've been in the business world for over 45 years, right?
Hmm.
But um, but the Master of Divinity at Liberty University, I finished that 5 years ago. It
Hmm.
was basically a 3-year program. And that was an evangelical Baptist school that I absolutely loved. I'm not a Baptist, but I loved it because it gave me a different perspective. I liked the way I understood things differently and better. And then I said, okay, I'm done. No, I think I need to get the doctorate, Doctor of Ministry at Emory University, a Methodist school. But in my cohort, there were 25 pastors from all these different denominations. I mean, Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, African Methodist, Episcopal, Salvation Army, etc. Right? I loved it. Oh my gosh. Though we came from different belief systems, there's differences in we had so much in common and we had the unity.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned it doesn't matter what the faith is, right? It's like, where are we with that? So I loved learning other people's perspectives
Mm-hmm.
and then say, how can I bring this in to the business world?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I've been doing more recently.
That's nice. I mean, it's, I remember back in my cleaning days, a lot of my clients were churches and seminaries.
Oh,
And it was funny because I would go to one and then I'd go to another and they're like, "Oh, did you clean such and such? Oh, they're such a pain in the ass." Like, why are you talking this way against each other? You should be coming together as and but it's the same in
exactly.
the marketing world. It's the same in the business world. Everybody's trash talking. We don't need to do that.
Yeah, that's not a good marketing approach. It's
No,
not a good marketing approach at all.
no. And
When I
but
was with Hair Club for Men, so I go back as a pup. I started working in 1986, 87. I started working for Hair Club for Men. And some of your viewers will remember that company, right? It was Cy Sperling was the
Mhm,
president. And he'd come on the commercials until about 2000. So 26 years ago. So people don't know him now because you
mhm,
haven't seen him for 26. He sold the company then. But he'd come on the commercials and he would say, I'm not only the hair club president, but I'm also a client. And then
mhm,
he'd show his before picture, his bald picture. And so I joined Hair Club 1986, 87. I opened up the Chicago office, the Chicago office. And that was at the time, maybe the ninth office opened in the company. And then I later was promoted to vice president of the company. And we grew that to 68 offices and went from 8 million a year to 120 million a year during the years that I was with him. And I had just a little to do with that. But
mhm,
Cy Sperling was brilliant, brilliant marketer. But he didn't speak negatively of the competition.
mhm,
He just didn't do it. It was like, oh, yeah, I've heard. Yeah, yeah, they do a good job. They do a good job. There's reasons why people have compared with them and Hair Club for Men, and they've chosen Hair Club for Men. Would you like to know those reasons?
mhm,
Yes, that's why I'm here, right? So it's like Abraham Lincoln said that he would, or it was said of Abraham Lincoln, something like Abraham Lincoln argued the other side's argument or gave the other side's argument better than the attorneys on that side gave their argument.
mhm,
But then he gave his side just a little bit better. Now you think about that. It's not Lincoln wasn't saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. He's actually helping them seemingly, but
mhm.
then his is just a little bit better, and then he'd win the case.
Yeah.
So I think that's instructive, and I'm glad you brought that up. You don't bash other people's goods and services. You don't bash another church. You don't bash another person. It's
No.
like we don't need to do that.
I just came out with a new book called Wait, There's More, and it's all about ethical marketing.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's the dirty little secrets that marketers use to make you buy stuff you don't need or don't want.
Yeah.
And it's not me completely bashing the marketing world. That's not what it's about. It's about showing consumers what we've done over the last couple of years to trick them. And I don't
Yes.
like that. I want to be this ethical marketer who gets people to buy me because they know, like, trust, and feel safe with me.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the problem a lot of times where you go into church, you go into a sermon, and you listen to this old guy, this priest, whatever, drone on about something, and you're like just sitting there going, "What the heck is he?" But these younger priests, these younger pastors, they're grabbing the attention of the younger people, and they're saying, "Hey, and they share some story, and it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
go there. I want to learn. I want to, and
Yeah.
I think it's time that we start bringing more of that back in.
Oh, I love that. You mentioned Joe Sugarman earlier.
Yeah.
I love Joe, and I was just exchanged messages with April, his daughter. It was her birthday, and I wrote her a message, and I said, "Boy, I miss your dad. I
Mhm.
miss your dad." Let me just tell you what I mean. Um, so he owned homes in Maui. He
Yeah.
said, I did a lot of things. I made money in marketing and stuff, but I really made most of my money in real estate in Maui. So anyway, but I met Joe Sugarman through Joe Polish, our mutual friend. Um, and my family and I stayed at one of Joe's rental homes in Maui, years ago. And so that's where I met Joe. And I remember looking at his bookcase in this rental home, and a lot of his books were on the shelf, which is appropriate, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like he loves his own books. But the more I studied Joe Sugarman, the more I really appreciated his marketing.
Mhm.
And I don't think that he was bait and switch,
Yeah.
even though he sold a laser beam mousetrap. I don't know if you remember that or not, for a
I
couple
had I
thousand
had
dollars.
interviewed him in 2010 for my podcast back then, and I think it was 2012. He invited us to his estate on Maui,
Oh,
and I
nice.
had to decline because that's when my son was graduating Army boot camp. And I
Oh,
was
you made the
like,
right
go to my
choice.
son, go to this lifetime,
You made the right choice.
choice. And but I did get to meet Joe again in Vegas in 2014. And he took me out to lunch and took me on a tour of his Blue Blockers uh,
Oh, nice.
building, and it was
Yeah.
great. And I still have one of his Batman cards somewhere on the shelf. And
Yeah.
but
Well,
he was just a giving guy. Yeah, there you go.
you say it's a given guy. I said years ago, I said, Joe, I'm speaking at a seminar in New Orleans, and I'd love to tell that story. Is that
Mhm.
okay? He said, oh, of course. He said, I'll send you Batman credit cards. Really? So he sent, I don't know, 150 Batman credit cards. He sent them right to the hotel. I didn't have to carry him or anything. That's the kind of guy he was. I mean, just such a good. But I think when I first heard of him, Rob, I thought, oh, he's probably a little bit sneaky, maybe a little bit dishonest or whatever. The more I looked at his marketing and read his book, Triggers, and a couple of other books as well, go, this guy was good. He was above board. I really like this guy.
Mhm. Well,
So we
and then
we
when he
some
got
of
up
those
on stage,
legends.
he just told stories. He didn't sell
Oh
anything. He
yeah,
just told
yeah,
stories. And the more stories he told, the more people wanted to go back in the back of the event and buy his books. And it
absolutely.
wasn't like he's shilling from the stage like everybody else
Yeah.
does.
Well, when he tells the story of the Batman credit card, and that's one of the great stories I heard, right? And then it's like, I've got one for you. Go back and buy some books, no, or whatever it is, and you'll get Batman credit cards. But that's a really good point, Rob. He told stories.
Mhm.
He told stories. He wasn't doing some slick sales pitch. He just told stories, and it's like, man, I want whatever he's got available. I want to learn more. Like the book Triggers,
Yeah.
just an absolutely brilliant book.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to your art movement because, as a marketer who, we share a lot of connections,
Yeah.
and you left the marketing. I guess you're still in the marketing world. I'm
Oh,
because
yeah.
we never turn that off. But
Right.
when did you feel the calling to create art, to create this movement?
That's a good question because I had helped Joe Polish with his groups, and I met you through Joe Polish. So Platinum Plus, which was a high level program for carpet cleaners. back at the time, 2001, it was pushing the envelope big time. It was like Joe said, I'm going to do a $10,000 per year program, Platinum Plus, for carpet cleaners.
Hmm.
And Dan Kennedy said, Joe, you're crazy. Carpet cleaners can't afford that. Dan Kennedy wasn't charging that much. Dan Kennedy's highest level group, and Dan Kennedy's brilliant marketer, his highest level group was $7,200 a year. Joe comes along, I'm going to do one for 10,000 for carpet cleaners. Joe, that'll never work. Well, Joe's brilliant and he made it work. First year there were 34 members, the next year 67 members, and next year 104 members, then 150 plus members. And then that led to Joe's Genius Network group,
Hmm.
$25,000 a year. Now it's 35,000 a year. That led to Joe's 100K group, where
Hmm.
people pay $100,000 a year to come to 3 meetings a year. All of that. So I helped Joe with all that for over 20 years. But in 2022, so 4 years ago, 2021, I said, Joe, I'm not going to help you anymore after 2/22/22. That's my 60th birthday. And so I'm not going I'm retiring from helping you, Joe. And I had other clients as well. And I said, I'm retiring. I want to focus on what I'm doing. So I was in the doctoral program at the time. I wanted to finish that. But I started thinking about, now I was raised by a professional full-time artist, a painter.
Hmm.
My dad, now if I say Bob Ross, everybody says, oh yeah, I know who Bob Ross is, the happy little tree and all that stuff. Well, Bob Ross started on television, I think in 1983. My dad started in 1986, I believe it was. So my dad has been on TV teaching art
Hmm.
like Bob Ross since 1986. No, it was 88. So anyway, my dad is Buck Paulson. Now, some people, they don't know the name Buck Paulson as they know Bob Ross. But if you were to see my dad's show, you'd say, oh, yeah, I've seen him. I've watched him. Yeah, yeah. He didn't quite become as famous as my dad's now 91. He still paints all the time. He's healthy. He's got purpose, Rob. He gets
Hmm.
up in the morning. It's like, wow, I get to paint.
Hmm.
Or wow, I get up and I get to spend time with my wife. I get to spend time with my kids, my grandkids. Purpose. But anyway, so I was raised with a paintbrush in my hand. I painted my whole life. And so 15, 16, 17 years ago, I even started a master's degree in art history because I want to go deeper. And it was when I started that master's degree in art history, that I became more aware of the work of Jackson Pollock
Hmm.
and even Van Gogh and even Monet and Basquiat and these brilliant artists. See, I was raised by a dad who was taught by a master artist that anything other than realism wasn't real art. If it was abstract, if it was drip, if it was action painting, Van Gogh, that wasn't real art. That was insanity. So I was raised that way. Because again, my dad was taught the same thing, right? So my dad paints a seascape, looks like a seascape. It's beautiful. When I paint, it's like abstract, right? Like even like you can see behind me a Statue of
Hmm.
Liberty painting. It's abstract, right? That's not exactly like the Statue of Liberty. It's more impressionistic, you might say, that type of
Hmm.
thing. But anyway,
I like that though.
so 15 years ago, I started painting more. I moved out of the box.
Hmm.
I moved out of the box. It was like, I'm going to start painting like with no restrictions. My first painting that was a drip painting. So it was like Jackson Pollock, right? Jackson Pollock takes some paint with a stick and throw it all around on the canvas. I said, I'm going to do that. I want to do that. So I put this 6 foot by 6 foot canvas on the floor of my office, and and I looked at it for weeks. Rob, it was so weird. I couldn't. It was like I couldn't do it.
Hmm.
It wasn't. Oh, I don't know how. All you do is just start, right? But it was like it was uncomfortable for me. I had like shackles on me from a creativity standpoint. But one day I went, I'm going to do it. So I pulled out, I started with red and I threw this red paint around. And it's hard to explain. I can't explain it. But it was like the feeling of complete freedom,
Hmm.
like the shackles were taken off of me. I can paint any way I want to paint. And so since that time, all of my art has been, it's like what's in my heart. How do I want it to look? What color would go great here? What would do here? And so forth. So then I started to look at my art like that, like the first painting I was just telling you about with the red, then I added the blue, and then I added some yellow, and then I added some black. And I titled that painting Unlimited. Then in Totality X, I wrote a chapter on that painting, Unlimited. How do you get rid of these shackles? How do you think bigger? How do you become what you're capable of becoming? So in that book, there's like 18 paintings that I've done
Mm.
that have a purpose. Not only, wow, that's a beautiful painting I want to hold or hang on my wall, but it's more like, what's the message? What can I learn from this painting? How is it teaching me? So then that led me to think there's art movements throughout history. There's Impressionism, there's abstract expressionism, there's Cubism, all of these art movements over time. I'm going to start an art movement. Now, you don't just go around starting art movements. You know, Monet didn't say, I'm going to start an art movement. It happened over time.
Hmm.
Picasso didn't say, I'm going to start the art movement. It just happens over time, right? But I said, I'm not going to wait for permission.
Hmm.
That is something that keeps people from becoming what they're capable of becoming.
Yeah.
They wait for permission to do something, whether it's marketing. I need to wait for permission to do this. Or during COVID, a friend of mine owns a restaurant out in California, La Cañada, and it was like he didn't wait for permission. He just did stuff.
Yeah.
Now he did it within the laws, but it's like if I waited to get specific permission on everything, I would have been out of business, right?
Hmm.
He said, don't wait for permission. Give yourself permission.
Yeah.
And that could be, Rob, give yourself permission to become great.
Yeah.
Give yourself
Well,
permission to
just for
go
example,
outside the
I
box.
see a lot of people on social media. They say, if I do this, will you support, buy, do that? I'm like, just do it. Don't give, people, it just,
That's good.
for me, it's always just been, I get up in the morning, and I have a purpose. And
Yes.
and my purpose is not to attract thousands of clients, not even 100 clients. I want to just help one person a day. The
Mm.
ripple effect will work itself way out, but the thing is that all these people are posting on social. My goal is, help a million people. I'm like, physically, you can't do that. Mentally, you can't do that. Focus on one person at a time.
Oh,
And
I
and
like it.
and all these people that keep saying, if I do this, what? And if everybody in your social network says don't do it, you're not going to do it. Forget about that. Just go out and do it.
Do it.
When I
It-
when I the tail end of me owning a carpet cleaning business, I wrote my first book, and it was all on social media. And people are like,
mm.
"What the hell does this carpet cleaner know about marketing or social media?" That I just
Yep.
did it anyway. If I would
Yep.
have listened to him, the book would never happen, and I would have never had a publishing company. I would have never
Yep.
produced 65 plus books.
Yep.
You ask people for your permission to do something and they say no, there's your dream. It's gone, done.
Yep. Don't
You
wait
know,
for permission. Joe
don't.
Polish, I'm going to start a $10,000 per person coaching program for carpet cleaners. He's told, don't do it, don't do it. I'm not waiting for permission for someone else. I'm going to do it. Here's my newest book, Your Simple Guide to Doing the
I
Impossible.
saw that your grandkids were holding it, and I'm like,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
yeah.
So, how a $1 painting, a vintage scooter, an Arizona ghost town, and guacamole can help you do your impossible. I call it your cool thing. What's your cool thing? What is the impossible thing you just want to do? Well, this is how you do it fast, right?
Hmm.
Joe Polish owns the Arizona ghost town. It's Cleater.
Hmm.
But the $1 million painting, this is what I want to point out. So, on the cover of this, is that's a picture of vintage scooter from 1964, but the million
Wow.
dollar painting. So it was a $7 yard sale painting. I stopped at a yard sale 20 some odd years ago, had no interest in going to the yard sale, but when I was driving by, I saw this painting leaning against a dresser. So I stopped and I went and looked at it. It's just a landscape, nothing fancy at all. It's just dusty and old, and I felt sorry for it because I was raised a son of an artist and I was an artist. It's like, oh my gosh, somebody painted this once upon a time. Probably felt proud of it. Somebody bought it. Somebody owned it. Somebody displayed it at some point, right? And so I said, I'm going to buy it. So I paid $7 for this painting, took it to my house. It was in storage for years. I came across it one day. I'm going to do something with this. So I took it to my studio, transformed it through the Jackson Pollock action painting style drip. And then I said, this is $1 million painting. I didn't wait for permission. I didn't I didn't go somewhere and say, "Hey, is it okay if I put $1 million price tag on this?" I priced it at $1 million confidently. I've written articles about it. I've written books about it. I've spoken in seminars about it. And it's more the story than it is about the money.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, how are you in the dust?
Hmm.
All of us are in the dust. So we go back to, well, I'm kind of in the dust with regard to my relationships. Okay. This is how you can rise from the dust. So I titled this painting Rise from the Dust because that's exactly what it did. Um, rise from the dust spiritually, rise from the dust financially, rise from the dust in all these different ways, right? So the art movement, the foundational piece of art is rise from the dust. The story drives the movement. But think about this: the art in the art movement, the totality art movement, is more people. Whoa, that's different. That's different. It's more of the idea of individuals transforming, becoming what they're capable of becoming. Because here's this piece of art that transformed, went from a $7 yard sale painting to $1 million. What can we do individually?
Hmm.
So the art that I create is part of the movement, but it's more the individuals changing people's lives that becomes the centerpiece of the art movement. So again, just like the book Totality X, my coaching program, the Christian peer group, the Totality group,
Hmm.
and then the art movement, the Totality art movement. I've called it Totalityism
Hmm.
because there's impressionism, there's cubism, there's all these isms. So totalityism is an art movement. So again, I'm not waiting for someone to give credential to that. I'm just moving forward. This is the movement. Come and join me. And it's a really cool thing to talk about and to
Yeah.
think about and create.
I have people come up to me and they remember me as the carpet cleaning owner, and they're like, "And you're doing what now? What?" And they can't believe that, a carpet cleaner can't be more than what he is.
Yes.
In your life, how many people have come up to you and question your sanity because now you're doing something totally different than
Yep.
what's in their eyes?
Yep, absolutely. It's like, wait a second, you're going to school for a Master of Divinity? You're going, wait, aren't you a marketer? Aren't you a business guy? Aren't you a speaker? I've seen you speak at seminars, and you're going to Emory for a doctor of ministry. So are you starting a church or something? No, that's in my heart. That's what I felt God wants me to do. So I'm going to do it. And I did it, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, to people question it. Absolutely. You're writing books, you're selling paintings for a lot of money, and wow, it seems strange. So that's part of the beauty of it. It's like your start as a carpet cleaner, similar to Joe Paula. She was a dead broke carpet cleaner. He's a drug addict, right?
Mhm.
And then he's become an incredibly influential entrepreneur, trainer, a coach. Same thing with you.
Yeah.
And so I like that. When I get a $7 yard sale painting and now it's $1 million painting. Rob, Joe, Timothy, others. There's no limits to us as well.
Yeah.
We can do, we're not going to wait for permission. We're just going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And so I love what you've done. I mean, it's, you and I met 25 years ago, I think it was.
A
And
long time ago.
and now you've written 60 plus
I,
books.
well,
I'm working on my fourth book, which is going to be really cool. It's going to be very much about the art movement and even preparing for the second coming of Christ. Wow. And tying that all in with really simple, practical things that we could be doing each day to become more of
the,
what
the
we
the early books that I wrote were about social media or SEO or life lessons, and they were great. Problem with you're right about technology, and it's outdated by the time the book comes out. So,
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
however, the second book I wrote, I teamed up with another former carpet cleaner up in Canada, and we wrote this brilliant book about search engine optimization and what two former carpet cleaners can teach you. And from concept to creation to number one bestseller in 4 countries took 60 days. And
Wow.
that book put us on the map, put me on the map.
Wow.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
first book sold a lot, but mostly because, word of mouth and people were curious about social media. But the second book really helped. The third book tanked. The third book was called Lessons from the Dojo, and every page was a new lesson. There was 101 of them, and I got inspired to write it because my kids were in karate. And the day or the week that my book was launching, and it was through my own company too. My wife and I were in Italy. We took a trip to Rome and Venice and Assisi and somewhere else I can't remember. But I'm like, I'm not communicating with the company. I'm on vacation. And so it took like 6 years for the book to finally make money. But
Wow.
it's and I tell people I write books because I love to write. And
Uh-huh.
I treat my books as marketing. I don't treat them as a standalone way to make money because community, altogether they're making me money. But they're designed as vehicles to teach people, but also to get me on podcasts, to get me, speaking events,
Yes.
but I'm not a J.K. Rowling. One book is not going to make me millions of dollars. It's just
Yeah.
not the way books are designed.
Yep.
It's they are vehicles to do bigger and better things.
Yep.
And like I said at the very beginning, I'm not out to win a million clients. I'm out to affect one person at a time. And those books help do that. And
Yeah.
not every book that I produce is going to, get somebody to buy it. People are like, well, Rob, I want to support you. Great. You have a book. Awesome. And then they start to lose interest after about 5 or 6 books. You know, 60 some books, I've lost them all. So it's so I write something different. I design it differently. A
Yeah.
lot of them are now easy to write because they're my stories. They're the way I see the world. And when I help people, I want their books to be that same way. To to
Mm,
to to get them more work speaking, because you're not going to make a lot of money selling a $20 book. What
yep.
you're going to do is you're going to use it as a vehicle to, you know, do more.
So, Rob, one thing came to mind as you were talking because we want to encourage people to not wait for permission to write their book, to write the book. My first book, and so I'm on the cover of this book. I was young, much younger, and moderately handsome at the time, moderately handsome. But anyway, Love and Grow Rich.
I remember that book.
To love your way to life's riches, right? So
Yeah.
this was 300 and some odd pages, harder to read.
Yeah.
Uh, my most recent is 100 pages.
Yeah, I
People,
keep them around 100, 150 pages
oh
because people
yeah,
don't have attention spans
they
anymore.
just don't. Now, I wrote this in 2008, so maybe they had a better attention span then. But what I want to point out with this book is I worked on this book for years, years, and it evolved into, being a sales training book into what it is, riches in all areas of life. But I just couldn't finish it. I just couldn't finish it. And I don't know if you know Stephen Bill Harrison.
Mhm.
Stephen Bill Harrison, I'm trying to remember. It's like Radio TV Interview Report is where they started. Anyway, they did some coaching for authors. They were doing a lot of stuff with authors. And so I was in that group. This was, before 2008. And one of the guys that I was talking to one day, I mean, we were talking, we would kind of encourage each other over the phone, after we met about our books and stuff. And he said, Timothy, finish the dang book. And it was like, but it's every time I read it, and 300 pages, 300 to edit it, so painful, right? He said, Timothy, put at the beginning of the book. And I did. It's in here. I could find it. Said, put at the beginning in the introduction of the book, let me tell you about my writing style.
Mhm.
I am no Shakespeare. You're going to read this book and there's going to be editing errors and grammatical errors and so forth. And this I really liked, he said, I write like I speak.
Mhm.
So that's how you're going to find. As soon as he told me that, I'll be forever grateful for him for telling me that. As soon as he said that, it was like, okay, I'm going to put that in the book. And it was like, okay, I just gave myself permission to finish the dang book in an imperfect way. If I would have waited for this to be perfect, you and I both know, Rob, this never would have been finished. I'd still be working on my first book. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Dan Kennedy is one who says it's better to be prolific than it is to be good.
Right. Well,
Wow.
let's talk
Sometimes
about
good is good enough, he says also.
one of the examples I use about being perfect. This is an iPhone 12. We're now what on iPhone 17, 18? These things will never be
Yeah.
perfect. They're always updating. In
That's
fact,
right.
I just got a
That's a
notice
good
while we're
point.
talking, and it says that there's software updates, which means it's, they're trying to fix something or improve something,
Yeah, it's a good
you know.
point.
So
I love
it's
that one.
my father-in-law was a self-employed carpenter, and he was very good at what he did, but he was too perfect. He wanted,
Mm,
he wanted things that you don't see, back of cabinets to be perfect. I'm like,
yeah,
Dad, nobody sees that shit. Just
yeah,
put it. He goes, I know it's there. I said, yeah, I understand. However, you're costing the people money. They're charging you by the hour, you're charging by the job or whatever. They see the perfection on the front. That's all they care
yeah,
about.
yeah,
You know, get and but he could never get it out of his mind because that's how he was trained, that you had to be perfect everywhere. And his
yeah,
jobs would take longer than people wanted. They would start to complain. And I'm like, you got to make changes.
yeah.
And then he'd roll out these invoices that itemized everything. I'm like, no. I say, make your invoices simple. He goes, but it has to be perfect. Nobody cares that you use three screws. Nobody cared about
Yes.
simplify.
I love that.
And he died 2 years ago, and I it's painful to watch him because towards his later years, because I knew that he was great at what he did. He
Mm,
just he didn't want to embrace the marketing because he didn't want to be too busy. He didn't want to take advice because he thought he knew it all. And
yeah,
and he was just this perfectionist. And I'm like, but you could be so much better.
yeah,
But the thing is, he was happy doing what he did.
yeah. That's important, isn't it?
So
You know what?
it's, but that's the first thing, a lot of times when I speak to clients is they want to wait till it's perfect.
Yeah,
Nothing's ever going to be perfect. And by the time you wait, someone else has put the product out and making money.
yep.
My first book, I say all of the books aren't perfect, you
Yeah,
know. I
Yep.
still get calls. Hey, there's a mistake on page. I don't care. In
And
13
that's
years, I'm
good.
not
That's
fixing
good.
it.
They're reading it. They're reading
Yeah,
it. Steve Sims, you and I both were friends with Steve
yeah.
Sims.
Steve was a nice guy. He was
He was
brilliant.
remarkable.
Yeah.
His first book title, Ugly Sims, published it himself. He did it through 60-minute books or whatever that's called. Ugly Sims. So ever after I called him Handsome Sims. But his point was be raw, be yourself, it doesn't, ugly is good. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that
Mhm.
was really important. And you and I were talking, I think, before we even started the recording, Rob, about Steve, how he told his story about how he was a bricklayer from London, and he had really no future because that's what his family had always done. And then he became what do they call him? The Wizard of Oz of
Yeah. He became the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, like he could grant wishes. He could grant wishes. So he would, if you wanted to have an elegant dinner at the feet of the statue David,
Mhm.
he could arrange that.
Oh,
And I
and
know,
it was funny because he told me that story. I had actually had dinner with him in 2016. My wife and I we had lunch with him in LA when we were visiting, and he was telling me all this stuff, and you know, I'm like, yeah, I was there in Italy. I was at the foot of David. How is that even possible? Security is
yeah,
immense.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's like here you have pictures of somebody dining at the foot of David. I'm like, the amount of planning had to be
Yeah,
precise.
they trusted him. And Botticelli, the opera singer, was singing to this group. Now, I don't know how much money they paid for that, but he was like, he could make it happen, Steve Sims. Ugly Sims, ugly Paulson,
Hmm.
ugly Rob. I mean, so we don't have to be perfect.
Right.
The books can be ugly. They can be ugly. But man, what is the purpose? I'd
Mhm.
rather have an imperfect book out, three, four, five imperfect book outs than none. A painting. Here's a really good thing I learned from my dad and other artists over the years. A painting is never done.
Mhm.
Artist, you can work on a painting for the rest of your life and it's never done. A painting is, or an artist simply chooses an interesting place to stop.
Mhm.
And I like that. It's like, okay, so I can work a painting and rework it and work it. It's like, that's an interesting place to stop. With this Statue of Liberty, that's an interesting place to stop. I like that. Now, my dad tells a story of an old artist from 100 years ago, George Ennis, and he would sell a painting, and then he would go into the office or the home of the person who bought the painting, years later, and he'd take it off the wall. And the person who owned it said, what are you doing? Don't, that's my painting. He said, oh no, I need to take this back to my studio. I need to work on it some more. No, I like the way it is. And George would say, just because you paid for it, do you think you own this? I created this. So anyway, that's to me, that's exactly, it's like it's never perfect.
That's
I
that's
like
the
I like that
that's the
conversation.
philosophy now of Apple. You buy all these movies and music, but you don't own them.
You don't own them, Rob. Did you think you were paying for it? Do you think you own it?
Yeah. This is great. So how do people find you? Where do they go?
Boy, I'm a little under the radar. And from a marketing perspective, that's not a real good idea. But I've just kind of been doing things under the radar. But a couple things. I'll tell you what, those who listen to your podcast or watch this, I have an email address. So if someone's likes any of this and you want to look into it further, Totality Group or the Totality Art Movement, tell me more about that, or the art. Timothy Paulson 1 at gmail.com. So Timothy Paulson, the number one at gmail.com. My art website is paulsonartshow.com. And that's a good one, paulsonartshow.com. Because you go there and right up front, there's a video of me talking about the art movement. So that's instructive. And then right below that, you'll see the $1 million painting. And then you'll scroll down and see a bunch of other really cool paintings, including a lot that have been sold, and you'll see some that are sold that are in the collections of some pretty prestigious people. But anyway, paulsonartshow.com is a good one. Thanks for asking.
What happened to my Vine? My Vine died.
Volume died?
My keyboard just flashed something that says your volume is off, and I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
I can hear you.
yeah. I
Oh,
just
I don't
couldn't
know.
hear anybody.
Oh, okay, you couldn't hear me.
So
I
technically, I
think
just
the thing that I said that you didn't hear, Rob, is that you're a handsome, handsome man.
I would have heard that. So everybody, please, visit Timothy at his various websites, buy his art, contribute, and learn because it's here is a brilliant marketer that spent years and years and now he's doing something with purpose. And I'm not saying that the other stuff was purpose, but
Yeah,
I really think that, as we get older, we need to have more purpose in our lives.
yeah,
And I'm getting older too. Not as old as you. I'm getting there. You know, but I do. I really think that everybody should write a book.
yeah,
To share your stories. And as we said, Joe Sugarman used stories very powerfully. You know, Tim is using stories very powerfully. And the people that we used as examples, Joe Polish, uses stories. And those stories can elevate other people to take action. And you know, we can do all kinds of great things. So if you're considering writing a book, do it. Don't
yeah.
wait. Don't wait for permission. Just do it. And tie something purposeful to the book.
Yep.
With Timothy, it's the art. It's the learning and the totalitarian. I can't even say it.
Totalityism.
There you
Yes.
go. So
Yep.
please visit them and we'll see you
The
guys on the
books, the
next
books are
episode.
available at Amazon, the books. So
Mhm.
it's pretty simple to get.
And I want to throw this out. This book, this is not a go buy this book type of thing. What this is an error book. And you might think, well, it looks great on the surface, but when you flip it open, they printed it backwards.
Oh,
So
isn't that
the
interesting?
the the now you got to go and that's the front page. It's the front
Wow.
page. And so when you
Wow.
get error books like this, offer it to somebody. Say, look, you know, this is a reject. Okay, but I want to do something with it. Say, look, this is a special one-off. Get it for $100, and that $100 is going to go to charity. So, do something with the reject because
Yes.
there is no other book like this that you're ever going to get. And I have through my years, I've gotten a ton of rejects that, wasn't printed right, backwards. It's just the way things happen. Utilize that in your marketing,
Yeah,
you know,
that's good.
and just do something different than the other marketers are doing.
Be
So
different. Be
be
different.
different or
I
be
love
ugly.
I love the comment. I heard it from Sally Hogshead first. It's better to be different than it is to be better.
Mhm.
And that's not to say we're not striving to get better and become what we're capable of. I'm all for that. But from a marketing perspective, it's like it's better to be different. How can you be different?
Yeah,
I wrote about that in my most recent book. That's one of the principles to doing the impossible is to be different.
yeah.
So I like your example of being different. That's cool.
So everybody, go grab Timothy's books. They're on Amazon, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Adios.
Thank you, Rob.